Thanks for tuning into my channel. My name is Simon Hill. Hit the like button, subscribe, share this video, leave a comment. Thanks for being here with me. I appreciate it. So let's get to it. Today we're going to be talking about a story that really resonates with me because it feels like in another lifetime, in another universe, in an alternate reality, this could have happened to me. And it still possibly could because I am a black man abroad. And we're talking about the story of Bakari Henderson, a young black man from America who was killed while he was traveling, vacationing, doing business in Greece. He was killed by a group of Serbians, a Bosnian, and a Greek. And this story, before I get into it, I want to say respect to his family, respect to anybody who loved him, who appreciated him. And I want to tell this story because I want his life not to be in vain. And it should be a reminder. And his story should resonate with all black travelers as to the worst case scenario of what can happen to us when we are abroad. I'm not telling this story to put fear into anybody's heart. I'm not telling this story to demonize any of the countries of the people of origin who did this to this young man, but I am telling this story because it touches me in a certain way. Now, to segue, I want to say that I have a problem with pornography. Not the type of pornography you see on the hub. I'm talking about Black Death pornography. I'm talking about when people constantly show on TV or online videos of the police killing us, videos of white supremacists murdering us, pictures and images like that. I am really disgusted by because it feels like some people get off on seeing us brutalized and murdered. And I'm sick of it, honestly, you know. But the same way that Emmett Till's mother wanted that casket open so those racists in Mississippi couldn't get away with what they did to her boy, I feel like we should see what bigoted, evil people will do to us in the worst case scenario to let people know that anti-blackness and white supremacy do exist in this world. So I'm going to play the video, starting off with this one of Bakari in a bar, going full screen. I hope that it's clear enough for you. Bakari is standing right here, and he's next to this gentleman who's holding up a phone about to take a selfie. Once again, this proves my point, and I emphasize this, that we should not be taking pictures with random Europeans, random white people who are just glad to see some black person in their presence, because I can almost bet Bakari was the only black guy in this bar, and somebody wanted to just take a picture with him for whatever reason. Bakari's going to get struck by this guy who says something racist to him, which we will talk about. As you can see, he hit him. And then Bakari is going to retaliate physically, and they begin scuffling outside the bar. I'm going to pause right here, go to the next video. Now, trigger warning, the next video shows his last few moments. And as sad as it might be, once again, we have to open the casket. And once again, I have respect for him and his family, but this needs to be seen. You can see Bakari running, and then he gets tackled and hit into a car, and then he's jumped by a group of men right here who begin to pummel him and beat him to a pulp when eventually he passes away. It's very, very hard for me to watch this and see this because this is no different than what happened to us for hundreds of years in America, and this is in Europe, right? So I wanted to go to this article on the New York Times. Rare retrial begins in killing of American in Greece. Bakari Henderson of Texas was beaten to death in 2017. The man convicted in this case were found guilty of assault, but prosecutors are trying again with murder charges. Police officers escorting two of the suspects in the killing of Bakari Henderson to a court in Patras, Greece in January 2020 by Nikki Kitsantonis, February 23rd, 2022. Athens. In the summer of 2017, Bakari Henderson, a 22-year-old American student, was beaten to death on the Greek holiday island of Zakynthos. The men convicted in Mr. Henderson's case were initially charged with murder, but a court instead found them guilty of assault. And most have served their sentence and been released. Now, if this incident happened in 2017 and they're already out, justice has not been served. I don't know about the legal process in Greece, but even if it is a manslaughter case, which means accidental murder, somebody shouldn't only go to jail for 3 years, 5 years at most. If it's 2017 to 2022, 5 years at most for a murder, even if it's accidental. That's wrong. And before people in the comments want to jump in and say, well, everybody makes mistakes, everybody does something wrong, think about this. If Bakari hit that guy and he died, or if he killed one of those people that attacked him in Greece, how do you think they would have treated that young black boy? He would be buried under the jail. We'd be saying free Bakari. So, no. On Wednesday, a court began in earnest to retry the case, again on murder charges, after the defense requested a delay on Monday. The retrial comes after a prosecutor deemed the assault convictions and subsequent sentences too lenient. I don't know how they just started with assault as how to charge them if somebody dies. But once again, I'm ignorant to what happens in Greece, but assault for somebody who dies doesn't seem right. They must have some manslaughter charge in Greece. I don't know why they weren't charged with that. Greek people, if you're watching this video, leave a comment and share. We're starting from the very beginning, a blank slate, said Christos Kaklamanis, the lawyer representing the family. They all face murder charges. This type of retrial is rare. The concept of double jeopardy is applied in Greece, but it only attaches if a verdict is final. Since the original decision was appealed by a prosecutor, it was not final and there can be a new trial on the same original charges. For anybody watching who doesn't know what double jeopardy is, it just basically means that you can't be charged for the same crime twice. It's written into the U.S. Constitution. It's a part of the Fifth Amendment, and it basically reads, nor shall any person be subject to the same offense twice, same offense to be put in jeopardy of life or limb. Basically, if they can't prove their case the first time and you're found innocent or there's a mistrial, they shouldn't charge you for the same thing. And this is actually something I agree with. Luckily, this case didn't happen in America because these guys would be walking free. But, if the prosecution from the state can't prove it the first time or fuck it up the first time, they shouldn't be able to drag you to court ad infinitum. Anyway, the deadly assault which followed an argument at a bar made international headlines, and Mr. Henderson's family returned to Greece for the start of the retrial. That sucks, man. Not only is your son dead, but you have to pay for those expensive international plane tickets. Coming from Texas to Greece, it's got to be pricey. Postponed several times because of the coronavirus pandemic and legal obstacles, the new trial finally got underway in the city of Patras in western Greece on Wednesday. The defendants were 5 Serbian nationals and a Briton of Bosnian descent. A 7th man, a Greek national, who was released in the first trial after a conviction for simple assault with time served in pretrial custody, was exempted from the retrial, his lawyer Dimitris Gavelis said. This to me is not fair. I think everybody involved, if you even put one finger on that boy and it ended up with him being dead, all of you should be in jail. All of you should be on trial for accidental homicide, manslaughter, murder, if we can prove it. The thing is with murder, you have to have intent, and this is coming from how I understand the legal system. You can only prove or convict someone of murder if they had it in their mind that they wanted to kill somebody. And once again, I want to say that all of these people from different nations, and we all see Bosnia and Serbia here, they're united in their fight against black people, Little progress was made on Wednesday, however, with the proceedings adjourned until March 11th, the first day on which the 3 judges and prosecutor were available to appear together. It's funny how in some countries they have 3 judges. I wonder how that works. That's just interesting to me. I need to look more into that. And I will be following up on this story, so we'll look back on this more. In comments to reporters outside the courthouse in Patras, the victim's father, Phil Henderson, said that the family would return to the United States for the time being. I was hoping that we could move forward, he said, looking visibly disheartened. We're going to have to wait for justice, he added. it sucks that, you travel all this way and then you have to go back. It's not cool. You're, wasting money and time. But it's got to be hard for them. Once again, prayers to his family. Testifying in court earlier, Mr. Henderson said that the family was still struggling to process the brutality of the attack. Nobody called 911. Nobody helped him, he said. They left him bleeding on the street and went back to the bar like nothing happened. How sick. How sick. I mean, one of my biggest problems is that it seems like people think they can just beat up on us, brutalize us, and everything will be fine. I'm almost certain that the people who beat on him thought because he was black that they could get away with this with impunity, that they thought he's just some N-word, right? And we can just do what we want with him. This is our birthright to treat him like this. And it's sick how people think that they can just kill a young man in the street, beat him bloody, then go back to the bar and have a beer. It's sickening. Mr. Kaklamanis, the Henderson family lawyer, expressed relief that the retrial had finally begun, despite the swift adjournment. I'm confident that Greek judges and jurors will rule fairly in a case that saw a young man lose his life so unfairly and in such a horrific way, Mr. Kaklamanis said. Bakari Henderson, a college graduate from Austin, Texas, had been traveling in Greece with friends and working on a photography shoot for the opening of a clothing line at the time of the attack in July 2017. How sad. It's very sad that a young man who wanted maybe to do photography, start a clothing line, open a business, his life was snuffed out so quick before he could shine his light on the world. Video from security cameras at the party resort of Laganas in Zakynthos shows a savage assault. A swarm of men can be seen chasing Mr. Henderson down a street before throwing him against a parked car and punching him and kicking him repeatedly. A Greek police spokesman said at the time that Mr. Henderson died within 30 seconds. Witness testimony suggested that the attack may have been racially motivated. A female bartender told investigators that when she had posed for a selfie with Mr. Henderson, who was a black man, a man standing nearby commented, "There are a lot of Serbs in the bar. Why are you talking to a black guy?" Pause right here. Let's pause. Let's break this down and talk about this. There are a lot of Serbs in the bar. Why are you talking to a black guy? It bothers me to no end how some people want to claim that they have, no racism in them or anything like that. But their biggest fear when they see black men out in public is them associating with non-black women or white women in particular. I've had this experience multiple times, how I'm walking down the street holding hands with my girlfriend or my wife, because my first wife was from Tunisia. She was a white Arab. And how many people just want to point at us, turn their heads at us, gawk at us, stare at us, and probably make lewd and insidious comments under their breath regarding our interracial relationship. And there's a lot to unpack here and a lot to talk about, and it's difficult to talk about because I don't have the exact vocabulary, but I will struggle and I will try to express this. I think that the entire world is brainwashed by the stereotypes of black men regarding our sexuality. I'm here in Turkey. I'm recording this video in Turkey right now, and there's a famous comedy called Gora, and in this movie, they make a joke about another character's penis who happens to be black. I mean, Turkey is as far removed from America as you can get. There are not many black people here, but even in this, very homogenous country, they go out of their way to make jokes about the black penis and about a black man's sexuality. And all throughout the world, the spreading of pornographic material has put in people's minds really disgusting things when it comes to black sexuality, especially the black man's genitalia. And I'm so tired of this, honestly. I spoke about this in my Serbian video, and I'll speak about it again. Black men should not be embracing this BBC fantasy bullshit, because this is tarnishing our legacy, our image around the world, and it's relegating us to just be sexual objects. And it it's triggering for me because in this situation I could have been Bakari, because I could have been at a bar with some girl I was dating who was not black, and I could have heard some comment like that, and that could have made me snap, and I could have went off on somebody, and I might be dead or I might be in jail or something. Oh, anyway, the point I'm just trying to make is people are triggered, especially non black men, when they see black men dating women of their ethnic group or race. She said the man then punched Mr. Henderson, who responded by hitting him over the head with a beer bottle. That exchange was also captured on video inside the bar. Honestly, when I looked at the first video of the initial altercation, I did not see a beer bottle. It looked like Bakari just threw a fist. I'm not going to dispute that. I'm not going to split hairs because at the end of the day, the man began by assaulting Bakari and then he retaliated. And I have to emphasize that I don't think violence is ever the answer. It's easier said than done, but you should just walk away when it comes to physical violence. But I digress. On one of the 9 men initially charged in the beating, 6 were jailed. The Briton received the longest sentence, 15 years in prison. 5 of the Serbian suspects got sentences from 5 to 10 years, but have since been released. Under the Greek penal code and parole system, actual time spent in prison generally ends up being less than half the sentences meted out in court. Mr. Henderson's family wants the attackers to serve the maximum penalty for murder, a life sentence, though practically in Greece that means 20 years in prison. I think that Europe generally has more lenient sentencing when it comes to people committing crimes. And in most cases, I would think that's better because I think in America, we tend to throw people the book, bury them under the jail, and it's wrong. But when it comes to hate crimes, I have no sympathy for white supremacists. I have no sympathy for anybody who lays a finger on any of our people. So fuck these guys. I hope that they get the maximum and that they're found guilty of murder, honestly. But a part of me is torn because I feel like they can't be convicted of murder when these people are fighting in a bar and they are inebriated and we don't know if they can prove intent. I hope the lawyers here can find a way, and maybe there's evidence they're not talking about in this article, but I hope these guys get more prison time for what they've done for killing one of ours. After being slapped in the face, Bakari was defending himself in what started as a one-on-one incident that stopped when they went outside. Jill Henderson, Bakari's mother, said in an email before the retrial began. This is Jill and Phil Henderson front, the parents of Bakari, arriving at court in Patras in 2018. The family wants the attackers to serve the maximum penalty for murder. So for the mob to then chase Bakari down, she wrote, beat him to death and leave him in the street to die is not a fight but a slaughter, which was inhumane and barbaric behavior. Mrs. Henderson, who has since established a foundation to provide support for families in mourning, added, justice will be served when all defendants are charged with intentional homicide, sentenced accordingly, and extradited back to Greece to serve their full sentences. To secure more severe terms, the prosecution must convince the court that the assailants intended to kill Mr. Henderson. If the retrial produces assault convictions again, some of the convicts might end up spending very little or no additional time in prison, Mr. Kaklamanis, the family's lawyer, said. I hope not. Convictions for assault in Greece carry terms of 5 to 15 years, though time served is usually much less. Defense lawyers have insisted that Mr. Henderson's death was tragic but unintentional. Agamemnon Tatsis, the lawyer for 2 of the Serbs, including the one who threw the first punch, said his clients did not deserve additional sentences. They've paid for what they did. No, you didn't. If you take somebody's life, doing 5 years in jail is not fair, because if that was your brother, your father, your uncle, your cousin, your friend, you wouldn't want somebody to beat him to death outside of a club and then he only gets 5 years in jail. Seriously, these people have no compassion for us. And he said that Mr. Henderson provoked the attack by using a beer bottle in responding to the initial blow. If you touch somebody They sort of have the right to defend themselves in any way they see fit. And if you instigate a bar fight, we're in a bar, let's get to rolling. Athanasios Tartis, the lawyer for the Briton, said that his client felt the weight of his part in the attack, but that the fatal blows came from others. Violent fights are not unusual in Leganes, a resort that attracts young tourists with cheap alcohol and often raucous gatherings. Deaths are uncommon, though. A British man was stabbed to death in Leganes in 2011, shocking the island community. In recent years, the Greek authorities have sought to crack down on alcohol-fueled offenses in Leganes while trying to sustain the foreign tourism on which the local economy depends. Last summer, the authorities introduced 24-hour police patrols and restricted traffic on the Central Road in Leganes after a spate of violent brawls in the area. Mrs. Henderson said that she hoped the retrial would bring the family closure. The past 5 years have been exhausting and sometimes overwhelming because it feels like a dark cloud lingering over us, she said. The defendants did not show ownership or remorse for their actions, which adds salt to our open wounds. I want to go back to Bakari here. There, but for the grace of God, go I. When I see pictures and images of young black men murdered, I always imagine that could be me. I could be the hashtag. And that's why this story touches me so much. And it's something I want to mention. I'm surprised he even got in the club, honestly, because in the southern parts of Europe, there's a lot of anti-black sentiment there. And in that Mediterranean region, anti-blackness is just a part of the fabric, the DNA. And I'll tell you a story. Now, I know somebody in the comments is going to say something stupid. Tunisia is not in Southern Europe. It's in the Mediterranean region. And this story I'm about to tell is about Tunisia. When I was in Tunisia, when I was married to my first wife, I was trying to be a good Muslim man. But one night, I just had a hankering to go grab a beer. And there was a nice bar in Hammamet where we were living called O-Bar. I went there one night. I think it was just like a random Tuesday night, right? Walked into the bar because there was like no security or something. That's going to be important later for this story. I walk into the bar, sit down at the bar, order a bunch of drinks. I think my tab ended up being like $67. I just spent the night there by myself. I wasn't doing anything else but just having a few beers. I had a great time at O-Bar the first night. A few weeks later, I tried to sneak out again because I was hankering for another beer. I go to O-Bar, and now they got security at the front. Security. And in Tunisia, security at the front is just a bunch of guys hanging out. I don't know if they're friends with the owners or not, but being one of the few black people in Hammamet, I'm walking up to the bar. I'm walking up to the bar's front door, and I'm asking, hey, is there a cover? Do I have to pay? And I'm trying to slow my English down and everything so they could understand. And they say, it's reservation only. And he looks to the side nervously. It's reservation only. Meanwhile, other Tunisians, white Tunisians, are walking into this bar, no problem. And they're not asking them for reservations or anything like that. They just see them and open the door. Meanwhile, they're telling me it's reservation only. And I'm like, dude, this is blatant in my face that you just don't want me in here because I'm black. And he's like, yeah, we're all black. We're all in Africa. He says this to me. This white Arab man tells me this. And the people around him laugh. And then I leave. And as I'm leaving, I say, fuck Tunisia. Fuck all of you. I'm out of here. And I walk home. I begin walking home. And as I'm walking home, a car speeds past me. And they yell out of the window, fuck you, nigger. And they throw something at me. True story that happened in Hammamet. And who knows? What if they pulled that car over, hopped out the car, and beat my ass up? They didn't know who I was, where I was from. You know what I mean? I didn't show them my passport or ID or anything. But to them, I'm just another sub-Saharan African, might be a refugee or an immigrant or something. They had no respect for my life at all. And I could have died right there on that street at night because I was walking alone and my wife didn't know where I was. And I could have died right there. That could have been me. I could have been Bakari. And that's why this story touches me so much. you know, and it still could be me because I still plan to travel. And listen, I'm telling this story because I don't want anybody to be naive enough to think that this world will treat us well, but I also don't want us to be scared enough to not go anywhere outside of America or outside of Africa or anything. This planet is as much our planet as anybody else. And Bakari shouldn't have died. And the people that killed him should be in jail for 100 years, man. But I want to talk about this article before we wrap up. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris raised the issue of delays in Greek courts regarding the murder of Bakari Henderson to Prime Minister Mitsotakis. The author is Thema Newsroom, and it was published on February 21st, 2022. Bakari Henderson was killed 4 years ago in Zakynthos. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris raised the issue of the huge delays in the verdict of the murder case of Bakari Henderson, who was beaten to death by a mob of Zakynthos 4 years ago, to Greek PM Kyriakos Mitsotakis during a meeting on the sidelines of the security conference in Munich. The delays in the administration of justice in Greece and the negative image of the country went beyond the European borders, and the Court of Human Rights received attention from the official U.S. stat. During the recent meeting of Mitsotakis with the Vice President of the USA, Kamala Harris, in Munich, the latter underlined the flawed functioning of the Greek justice system regarding the excessive delays in its delivering final verdicts. The American Vice President asked Mr. Mitsotakis about the progress of the trial for the murder of the American young Bakari Henderson from Austin, Texas, which was committed in Zakynthos more than 5 years ago, and there is still no final decision on this case. The case has been tried in the first instance and is now being heard in the second instance in the Sworn Court of Appeals in Patras. Today, proceedings were adjourned for February 23rd, 2022. In particular, the defense attorney of the 3 of the 7 defendants in total requested a postponement of the trial, and finally, the court decided to adjourn the trial for the day after Wednesday. So, more than 4 years after Bakari Henderson was beaten to death by a mob in Greece, his parents are scheduled to return to that country for a retrial of their son's murder case. So, I want to salute Vice President Kamala Harris, the first Black Vice President, the first woman Vice President in history. I want to thank her for raising this issue and talking about this, okay? I think this is important, and what she did is a good thing. And I think some people want to say it's not important to have Black faces in high places, but this is a time when a Black face in a high place is raising the issue of one of our people being murdered by a mob of racist, xenophobic Serbs. I think this is a good thing. And this is why we need to demand that our elected officials, especially the ones who look like us, are fighting for us. And I want to say Kamala Harris is doing a good thing by, advocating, putting the pressure on the Greek authorities about this young man, because she could be talking about anything else. NATO, Greece's conflicts with Turkey, Cyprus, so many things she could talk to the Greek prime minister about, but she took time out of her meetings to talk about the death of this young man. And that's a beautiful thing. So I want to end with this. Please don't take pictures with these Europeans. If you're white watching this, please don't get upset when you see Black men with white women. Please don't assault anybody. Please treat people with respect and dignity of all races, all colors, all backgrounds, all nationalities. And please, let's have justice for Bakari. Thank you for watching. My name is Simon Hill. Hit the like button and subscribe.